You know, this is Cut by You again, and people ask me all the time, why would you give up all that for this? My wife asks me that all the time, living in Hanover. But here's why. John Sloan Dickey was Dartmouth's 12th president. He came from Franklin Delano Roosevelt's State Department as head of public relations and took over as president of Dartmouth in 1945. In 1946, at the convocation of his first class, he told the students, "The world's troubles are your troubles, and there's nothing wrong with the world that better human beings cannot fix." When I saw this, I thought, oh my goodness, is that what a college president does? Is that what's possible if you take over a college? You mean, is it possible for me to, instead of throwing my own body at particular problems like HIV and tuberculosis, is it possible to train thousands of young people to be so inspired and so on fire that they're going to go out and throw their bodies at problems? They're going to be so well trained that there will be no trouble that they can't fix. I kept going back to the search committee, is that what you want me to do? And they kept saying yes. You know, I had to negotiate a lot with my wife Yunsuk about whether or not we were going to move. She grew up near a city and she doesn't like small towns. So I kept going back and I kept saying, okay, they want me to go to the next stage of the interview process. Is it okay? And she'd look at me and she'd say, well, yeah, they'll never give you the job anyway. So this is now my job. I still am very involved in global health efforts, but my job now is to inspire young people to think that there's nothing that they can't take on, to make the world's troubles their troubles. Now, the question tonight is, have we, as the Korean American community, made the world's trouble our troubles? Well, this is a scene from Peru. Seeing this, seeing people who live on garbage in Peru, was very moving to me. And it moved me to want to do something to help. This is a scene from 1950 in Korea. People living on garbage. In 1950, we had about a 23% literacy rate in Korea. Our gross national product per capita was about the same as that of Haiti in 1950. This is a scene of a young woman marching from Seoul down south, fleeing the war. This could have been my mother. My mother would have been a little bit older then, but my mother carried her own youngest brother to Masan when they were fleeing. This is what Seoul looked like during the 1950s. Now, look at Seoul. We're the 11th largest economy in the world. You know, it's stunning to me to think that my father and my mother lived in conditions that were worse where we've come than some of the conditions I work in today. What is the nature of our responsibility now as Korean Americans? You know, many people felt the same pain that I felt in Peru and helped Korean Americans. Dentists in the Army made it possible for my father to get an education. The World Bank, the US government, invested billions of dollars into Korea. Admittedly, not entirely for altruistic purposes. Korea happened to be very important geopolitically. But the fact of the matter is that we are here today because of what Malcolm Gladwell would call happy accidents of fate. We happen to be in a war, but we happen to have people who wanted to help Korean Americans. It's the persistence of the workers, the young women who worked in the factories in the 60s and 70s in Korea. It's their persistence, it's their skill, it's their commitment to work that brought us here. Yes, indeed, we did a lot to bring us here. But now that we're here, what is indeed the nature of our commitment? What can we do to build a better world, to replace the patchwork of lucky breaks and arbitrary advantages that determine success, and build a society that provides opportunities for all? Moreover, is this an urgent task? Is it something that we think about once in a while? Is it something that we think about only when we're in church? Is it something that we think about only on evenings like this? Well, one of my favorite philosophers of all time is Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King had a very clear vision of what it meant to have a sense of urgency. In Letters from a Birmingham Jail, he writes about an experience with what he calls a white moderate, who wrote to him and said, "All Christians know that the colored people will receive equal rights eventually. But it is possible that you are in too great a religious hurry. It has taken Christianity almost 2,000 years to accomplish what it has. The teachings of Christ take time to come to earth." To which Martin Luther King responded, "Such an attitude stems from a tragic misconception of time and a strangely irrational notion that there is something in the flow of time that will inevitably cure all ills. Actually, time itself is neutral. It can be used destructively or constructively. More and more, I feel that the people of ill will have used time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. We will have to repent in this generation not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people." By coming here tonight, you are helping the Korean American community break the silence. Koreans and Korean Americans have to make our voices heard. We must declare that the world's troubles are our troubles and that we're going to fix them one by one. Many happy accidents and your own persistence have brought you to the place where you can now be generous to the Korean American Community Foundation. You can do that. You've taken that first step. It's so important. And shamelessly, I'm going to tell you that I have filled out my card for $1 a day. And I'm going to ask you all to do the same, because breaking the silence costs money. Please give generously to the Korean American, to KACF. And I thank you for listening to my story. This is my family now. This was our gathering at my inauguration. My Korean American, Scottish American, African American family. You know, as I see you all here today, we're not such a small group. But I always try to remember what the great anthropologist, a member of my tribe, Margaret Mead, used to always say. Never doubt the capacity of a small group of committed souls to change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Thank you very much.